I have the Laguna 12-inch jointer, and something that I've really needed to upgrade on it is dust collection. I don't yet have a big enough dust collector that I'm doing ducting, but I do have a decent 2 horsepower Grizzly dust collector that I can hook straight up to the machine, and I would love for it to suck up all the dust with that. I can roll it over here, but I end up creating such a mess. So it actually just got moved into the spot, so it's looking really tidy. But what commonly happens is that it spits out chips. Everything around the cutter head spits out chips. And then I end up getting a lot of chips out the back up high, and I need to kind of look around for where that's coming from. But I want to close up all of these gaps before I do a really nice calibration to make sure the beds are coplanar. As it got moved, there was a lot of lifting that happened just on both the beds, and so I know that I need to tune that up. So first I'm going to tackle dust collection, get rid of a bunch of the voids that are just spitting out chips. The goal here is to just give a good camera view of what it's like up there in the dust chute. So this shroud, where it's darker up there, that's actually where the steel stops, and it's just open to the larger cavity. And so that's on both sides, as you can now see. So there's plenty of things that I can just seal up, try to get all the airflow down this huge cavity. Here's a view from the back, so you can see up high. That's just an easy spot for chips to just come overflowing. I also get a lot of chips just out of here, so I've got to kind of figure out how to keep them from going down where the pulley is and everywhere else. As I would love to have a ton of storage, as I've got to keep this a good 12 feet, not 12 feet, a good 12 inches, maybe even 20 inches away from the big cabinet to the wall. Currently, this makes so many chips that it really is going to cut down on my storage. So this cabinet sits, I don't know, maybe 20 inches away from the wall. I have it pulled out a little bit more than that right now, but this guy comes super far out. And so I need to cut down on that so that I can actually even just have things in boxes stored in this dead space, rather than always having to clean up the mess behind the jointer. A little update on the progress. So I made 2 identical pieces. This slides straight up and covers the void, and then I've got some pilot holes here that I'm about to start working on, where it's going to be tied into the metal. I'm holding it in place, but you can see how it just contours around anything that's up here. Take a further out view. So this is just fits up in there. Pieces that got stuffed in here. So it ends up fitting pretty nicely around everything that's up top. The angle iron, I have 2 screws in. Took a little bit to drill them. Thank goodness they worked out. This side's got some writing on this junk piece. Next up, one of the biggest offenders is this guy on both sides. So I'm going to see if I can get some foam wedged in there. For this here, I just did a rub drying, so do with a pencil, and then I'm going to see if I can cut some styrofoam to match that. Here's the rub drying. I used some spray adhesive. I had this piece of foam that's actually wedged, and then I just put paper towel so I can stop touching all the sticky parts. And then I've got a long blade, and I'm going to cut a little wide of the line and hope that it goes well. This is what the piece is looking like after some fine tuning. think it's gonna go in. So far I've got some foam that I had stuffed on both sides, so it had this void here. And then in the dust chute, the top bit had a big angled open area, so I've fixed that with some plywood that custom fits in there and screwed it in through this sheet metal. And now I'm working on just building some plywood pieces that are just gonna go vertical right here. And then I'm thinking about just getting some big magnets that it holds onto here instead of drilling into the cast iron. Up close view of what this is slowly becoming down under here. So I've still got some more custom fitting to do as I'm now getting close to the final review. You can see that I'm starting to cut out these little notches a bit more. That's what's gonna happen. So I'll have a good 2 inches, 3 inches down here to hold some big beefy magnets is what my thought is. Show off my handiwork. So this is just friction fit in there. I'm super happy with it. Obviously not every void is filled, but I think I could always do some self-adhesive foam around the outside edge. And then this plate, even though it's sitting hard in the middle or flat against that, there's a nice void there. So, you know, it's not totally airtight, but it's much improved than that big gaping hole. So on the outfeed table, the one that didn't hold itself up, I had tried just shimming with some blue tape to quickly deal with this, but that didn't work out. So then I just made 2 opposing wedges. Obviously, the one wedge needs a lot more tidying up, but it's holding it in place. So once I get the tables aligned, I'll be able to see how well my upgraded dust collection works before I start figuring out magnets or threading it into the cast iron or whatever else I can come up with. Thought I'd share a silly learning. So I just had some packaging styrofoam and thought I'd use these really good corners to fill in the void right there. So I had used a section, pressed it up against it, cut the line, thinking I was doing great. I brought it over here and I was like, why is there such a gap? It's because I cut on the wrong side of the line. I'm doing a report back after my first major jointing session on how all of my dust collection upgrades turned out, and I would actually say they did excellent. I did have some chips that you're seeing on the table and on the bed and a little bit out back, and they all came from doing this live edge piece that I just joined. I did a ton of passes. As you can see, I filled up that entire, or not in the entire, but everything in that bag came from this. And what you're seeing as far as chips was what was spitting off the blade as it kind of went in and out. And in particular, I would get some chips that would come out sort of underneath this little U right there and then come out there. And then a lot of stuff would kind of just get stuck in here underneath the blade guards. But in general, super pleased with what the dust collection is. Considering I probably did 20 passes, as that was done on a sawmill and was pretty rough, I'm satisfied.